Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Running the Bases podcast. I'm your host, Michael Garaffa, and we are here in episode number 8. The World Series is over. The Nationals are world champions of baseball, and I am here with a second-time guest. Ryan, welcome back to the show.
Thank you for having me on once again. I really do appreciate it. I'm very excited to talk about the World Series a little bit, then get into some off-season topics.
Yeah, and you said to me a few weeks ago that you really wanted to come on for the awards segment when we make award predictions, and that is what you are here for today. We are going to review a few things that have happened in the meantime before we get to the awards. We have 5 people who gave their input in total, including you and I, for this award prediction, but we'll get more into that later. So we hop right into it here. The Nationals are world champs. You and I called it here first 2 podcasts ago that the Nationals were going to win the World Series in Game 7 and that Steven Strasburg was going to be the MVP. I think we both, well, I don't know about you, but I know I found my new favorite pitcher other than Jacob deGrom. So I'm impressed. It was one of the most intense ends to a series ever. It went back to Houston. The Astros pulled out a just terrible loss, losing 7-2. Nats just an incredible win there with the Trey Turner issue that they managed to come and figure out. But Game 6 was really, there were a lot of people saying that the Astros were going to take it in Game 6, and I just didn't think that was going to happen. So it was a crazy Game 6, but what are your takes on that Game 6?
Strasburg was electric. Strasburg is now my second favorite pitcher in the league. He was incredible. Yeah. Gives up 2 runs early, then just comes back and goes 8 1/3 to finish it off and 7 strikeouts. He is the reason they won that game.
Yeah.
Do you know what that game reminded me of? 2014, Game 6, Yordano Ventura against the Giants to force a Game 7.
Interesting.
It is incredible how composed he was on the big stage, how he never let anything get to him.
Yeah.
He's had issues before with once he gives up some runs, he gets in his own head. Gave up 2 runs and said, nope, not letting it get to me. And comes back and just battles and throws a hell of a game out there.
Yeah, and it was genuinely one of the most impressive postseason performances I've seen since Madison Bumgarner and all of his. But, I mean, Strasburg just made himself one of the most elite postseason pitchers ever. I mean, his postseason numbers are off the charts. I mean, the guy just was straight up dominant. I mean, his ERA was 1.98. That's impressive. And he had a whopping 5 wins. 5 wins in a postseason where you played in 6 games. He just won 5 out of 6 games and at a 1.98 ERA. The postseason, that doesn't happen. And you've got guys like Clayton Kershaw who's rocking like a 7 ERA. He's now become one of the most elite pitchers in baseball in the postseason and even in general.
He's been an elite pitcher, but he just took it up another level.
Yeah. And
this guy, he really just did not stop. Some pitchers, like you see with Kershaw, take a step back in the playoffs. He took another step up.
Yeah.
He was electric. 5 wins. That ERA is incredible. This was by far his coming out party for how amazing he is in the postseason. People were worried about that with his experience and all that, but no, this is a guy that took it up another notch and proved he is one of the top pitchers in the league.
And looking at this here, 5 out of the 10 aces in this postseason on postseason teams, I'm going to read off their ERAs. Jack Flaherty, 4.24. Clayton Kershaw, 7.11. Mike Foltynewicz, 7.36. Tyler Glasnow, 7.71. And Sean Manaea, an 18 ERA. That doesn't happen. And Steven Strasburg's just unbelievable. The only people who had better ERAs than him was Garrett Cole, who probably could have won the MVP, the MVP if they won. Wainwright, who didn't pitch in as many games. Miles Mikolas, who didn't pitch in as many games. Mike Soroka, who pitched in even less. Charlie Morton, who pitched in a few and had a .9 ERA. Walker Buehler, Bruce Sutter, and then the rest are just relievers. But, I mean, for Steven Strasburg to be on the big stage with the team that he's been with for so long, won just so many awards with them. It's crazy for him to come out there in Game 6 and tear it up like he did.
This guy proved that he is worth more money than his contract. Because people were worried about that when the whole opting out topic came to life. People were like, he's about to get $25 million.
Yeah.
Is he worth more after this? Shutting down the Astros, getting 3 wins in the World Series against one of the best offenses in the league. He proves he can make more. He is worth more than $25 million.
Yeah. And he could probably make. He probably will break the record for pitcher contract. I think by far.
I think Garrett Cole will.
Well, yeah, okay. Well, we never know. I think they'll be in a dead heat. I think the only thing is if Cole, I think it may come down to which player won the World Series. I think Strasburg will get more simply because they won the World Series. And if Cole won the World Series, I think he probably would have won it as well. But a great Game 6 led to an even better Game 7. Game 7, I said it from the very beginning of this postseason, from the very beginning of this World Series, that it was going to go to the last pitch of the last inning. And that's exactly what happened. It was 2-0 Houston going into the 7th. All was cruising. Zach Greinke, man, was throwing his heart out. I haven't seen him pitch that well in his life. He pitched a great 6 1/3, only allowed 2 runs, 2 hits. I mean, just a really great showing from him. And he came out and I mean, I'm amazed at how well he pitched. You don't see a guy like Zach Greinke. I mean, I said it to you before the series started. Will it hurt or help the Astros with Greinke's social anxiety? It ended up that it didn't hurt him at all. I mean, it didn't make any impact. And that game was proof that Zach Greinke still can be an elite pitcher.
This is the perfect thing that the Astros needed, knowing that they're probably going to lose Garrett Cole. They're going to make a run at him, but they're probably going to lose him. But this is very good for them, knowing that Greinke can pitch at this high of a level, especially on the biggest stage. He was incredible. And that Game 7, A.J. Hinch made a huge mistake. After pulling Greinke, he should have brought in Garrett Cole.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's no doubt. And then you go with Will Harris, and then look what happens. Howie Kendrick hits another one off the pole. This was a huge mistake by AJ Hinch, and it's going to come back as one of the worst managing decisions in a Game 7 because you have your ace. Bring him in.
He's warmed up.
Yeah, warmed up, ready to go. And you see what Bochy did. He brought in his ace. Why don't you bring in yours?
And this was also one of the first times in my recent memory where neither team brought in a regular starting pitcher. Like, yes, Corbin came in, but he had been pitching in relief. It was the first time where we haven't seen a guy who's never pitched in relief before come into a Game 7, and I think it's primarily because of just lack of paying attention. I mean, I feel like there were so many bad decisions that A.J. Hinch made, it almost feels like he threw the game. I mean, there's no other way to put it than it was. You have to really just be not paying attention to the game at the time to not do that. I mean, Garrett Cole, after the game, said to reporters, "I'm not a member of this team anymore. I don't want to talk to you." And he clearly said it with intent to say, clearly they don't view me as anything on this team, or else I would have come into the game, and because of that, I'm not coming back. You can't consider me a player on this team. And all rights to him. He deserves to say that because of how poorly he was treated.
He was treated poorly. I feel like he feels he was backstabbed.
Yeah.
And that's unfair to him. Best pitcher in the league, and he should have been brought in. There's no doubt. And I think that when you're in Garrett Cole's position, he's still going to consider the Astros. He still is, but they're not going to give him the money that he wants. They have to deal with Greinke's contract. They don't have it. And with how this whole game went down, I think Garrett Cole's most frustrated because he knows he comes in, they don't score another run.
Yeah.
And I firmly believe that. Garrett Cole was electric throughout the whole playoffs. Besides Game 1, he wasn't as stellar, but this is the best pitcher in the league. You got to bring him in.
Yeah.
And there's no doubt. But this is also the first World Series in MLB history where neither home team won a home game. All games were won by the away team.
The only time in sports history, too, in a 7-game series. So, I mean, I said it right after it was like 4-0. It was 4-0 for road teams. I said, this series is going to end up being an all-road series. I can just see it now. And once the Astros were ahead 3-2, the only way the Nationals could win it in 7 was to be an entire road series, which is why it was so fascinating. And if you look at every game in the series, it really was, and I said it was a blowout series. I mean, the only game that wasn't really a determined game, like where you didn't know who was winning going in the ninth, was Game 1. It was 5-4. The next scores were 12-3, 4-1. 4-1's not really a blowout, but it felt like it because the way the Astros were up, the Nationals had no chance of coming back. 8-1, 7-1, 7-2, and 6-2. Those are really big differences in scores. There were no close games except for Game 1. Game 7 was the closest, and then the Nationals blew the doors off, and it was all them. But, I mean, the Astros have big questions to answer, like what happened to the bullpen? Why did the bullpen do that? You have your 3 best guys in your bullpen. You have Harris, Osuna, and Presley, who are supposed to be your best guys. Presley was the only one who did a good job, and he only left him in for 1/3 of an inning. I don't know what your logic is in doing that. Osuna, he left in. He brought Osuna in the 7th. I thought that was a terrible idea, and that clearly didn't work out at all. And doing that clogged him up. I mean, Will Harris didn't get a single out, and then you've got. I mean, Urquidy came in a little bit too late. The guy's coming in with 1 out in the 9th. I mean, you've got no choice other than to pray that he's as good as he was. And you've got Joe Smith blew the game. And I was saying it to myself that when Hudson was warming up, Hudson's warming up in the bullpen, and the game was 4-2. If the game was 4-2 going into the bottom of the 9th of Game 7 of the World Series, and you have Daniel Hudson going out there and not Steven Strasburg, I think Hudson loses the game. And there's so many. I mean, look, if Cole is brought in, we could still be saying the same thing right now, saying that Washington still won the World Series, but we also might be in a completely different situation where the Nationals didn't come back. And it was that close that you couldn't tell. But, I mean, an amazing World Series. Not the best World Series we have ever seen by far. It was not even the best Game 7, but it was a really fun series, and I think we can sum this postseason up as one of the best postseasons we've ever seen.
This was by far an amazing postseason. But I still have my favorite one.
Of course you do.
It's 2014.
2014?
My favorite one for one reason. The win streak, 8 straight games, and definitely how they fought back. 2015 is right there with it. They're tied, I have to say.
Well, if the Mets put up a little bit more of a fight, it probably would have been more exciting, but we just kind of laid dead.
And we kind of just murdered you.
Yeah, you did.
You knew by the inside the park home run, it was over.
Yeah, first pitch of the game. Boom, the series is over. All right, we're going home now.
Yep.
But that's interesting that 2014 is your favorite. But that was a great postseason. I will give you that. That was, even though it was a tough loss for you, I think you're able to say 2014 because they won in 2015. Maybe if they didn't win 2015, well, yeah, if they won before 2014, they won in 2013, say, maybe 2014 wouldn't be your favorite. But I think 2014 was a great year for the Royals. And look, I'm going to have a discussion at some point on the podcast with whoever's on of what's the team of the decade. That's one of the most interesting things to think about. The decade's over. We've got a new decade ahead of us.
That's correct.
And there's really no team that stands out to me. I think the only team that I could really make a serious bid for are the Giants, because the Giants won 3 World Series. I think if the Astros won this year, they might have had a better chance. But I think really overall, if the Dodgers won the World Series, they would have been the team of the decade. But they collapsed. So the Dodgers can't be the team of the decade. The Yankees can't really be the team of the decade because they didn't make it far enough at all. I think it's really, for me, between the Giants and maybe you could say the Red Sox for their continued dominance. But, I mean, for me, the Giants have to be a team of the decade. If you had to just think of it right now, what would you have to say for a little bit of input for team of the decade kind of conversation? It's a tough one.
I gotta go Red Sox, too. Continued dominance, it's gotta be the Red Sox. You can't say the Yankees because the expectations they didn't win World Series. Wow.
But you've also got the Giants who won 3 World Series, but they collapsed after 2016.
Yeah, I'm still going to go Red Sox. It's between the Red Sox and Giants. The Dodgers don't have a chance in it because they made it to 2 straight World Series and they didn't get it.
Right.
So
if they won this year, then I could have put it.
If they would have won it this year, I would say them, but I got to go Red Sox.
Interesting, yeah. I mean, I'm going to have to do a lot of research into that.
Yeah, I'm going to have to look more.
Winning seasons, overall MVP award candidates and stuff. But there's a lot of stuff that goes into that. But that'll do it for World Series. Baseball is done. Obviously not for us and for the real baseball world, but baseball games are done until February. No World Baseball Classic just yet. That will be next year, after next year, I believe. So that'll be that to see. I mean, the World Baseball Classic is always interesting, but the next thing we have here after, we're done. Wow, that's the last time I'm talking about a baseball game until next year. That's crazy. All right. Moving on, Carlos Beltran named the Mets manager. This one obviously hits home for me. A lot going on for this one. Being a Mets fan, seeing Carlos Beltran back in the orange and blue just was such an amazing feeling. Do I agree with the signing? No. But out of the 4 candidates that were left once Joe Girardi was eliminated, I think it was safe to say that Beltran's the only candidate who I wouldn't have been upset with. So I'm happy that Beltran's back, and if he provides us results, I will be more than happy to have him. And if he can be the type of manager that people expect him to be, then I will be more than happy and more than pleased with the way that'll turn out.
Thing with Beltran is I love Carlos Beltran, Royals player,
right,
Mets player, Astros player. I just don't think it was the best decision overall. I think that they shouldn't have let go of Girardi so easily.
Yeah.
I think Girardi would have been a great fit there. I like Beltran. He's great with the players. He's got great connections. I'm just interested to see his coaching.
Yeah.
I think the first year's going to be a little bit rough because he's getting the reins together, getting his culture, getting what he wants in. So
I don't have a tolerance for rough right now. We got to have perfect. That's the problem.
You got to give him a couple years, I think.
Yeah.
You got to give him a year or two to get it together. I like the Mets because they have such a strong pitching rotation. They have some great talent with Pete Alonso and all those guys. They've got the potential. You just got to be patient and wait with Beltran for a couple of years. That's my thing.
And I agree. When you have a new manager, you have to give him a couple of years to settle in. But I think if you're a Mets fan right now, we have to win now. We have a team with Pete Alonso who's in his second year. We've got guys who are starting to enter the middle of their careers, and Michael Conforto, Brandon Nimmo, Wilson Ramos is at the tail end of his career. I mean, Jacob deGrom even could be considered going into the middle of his career. And we can't let that slip away. I mean, some of these guys, Jacob deGrom's been pitching since 2014, I believe. And you can't have these guys go to waste. And I think if the Mets, I said it to some of my friends that if the Mets don't crack 500 this year, Beltran's fired. I said, no matter who is the manager, if the Mets don't crack 500, the manager has to be fired because this is a season the Mets are expecting to win. They're expecting to make it to the World Series, and they're expecting to win the World Series. That is the goal for 2020. Start the decade off right, win the World Series. We have the pieces. There's no question about it. The Mets have the pieces to win the World Series. We need the proper management. Any team that has the pieces and doesn't make it, the only thing that's lacking is in the manager's department. And hopefully, Beltran will fill that need for us.
I like Beltran. I've said it multiple times. I think that he has the potential to be a great manager because of the way he can connect with people and be personable. I think he has a great knowledge for the game. He has a great passion for the game. You've seen him in the Yankees organization, which I think helps being a storied franchise. But definitely, I think that in a couple years, this Mets team could definitely be in the playoffs because they're still contending for the playoffs. But I think that they are going to take a tiny step back this year because they're still working with a new manager. So I like this hire because of the potential that he brings and his love for the game that he brings.
Yeah, and I agree. But, I mean, like I said, for me and for all Mets fans, if we don't make the postseason this year, it's going to be another failure. because ever since 2015 when we were so close, I mean, magical run, sweeping the Cubs, which was so amazing. I still love that to this day. But sweeping the Cubs, and then the Royals just came in and made us look like a little league team. And coming in to 2016, the Mets slogan was "We have unfinished business," and they did, and they did very well to try and get it back. And then the Giants came in, and Connor Gillespie broke our hearts. And since then, the Mets didn't have a 500 season. 2017 was a waste. 2018 was a waste. 2019 felt like a waste until August came around. And then the Mets finally started playing better. So to see the Mets be in this kind of situation where we need to have a manager get us to the postseason in their first year, it's not ideal because you can't expect a first-year manager to do that. And the Mets are. And it's not fair for Beltran. There's going to be a lot of extra pressure he doesn't need on him. And that's just the way it's going to go. So hopefully things don't go up like that. And I'm rooting for him. I really hope that he gets the Mets to a World Series. I mean, the only thing that would make it better if the Mets win a World Series is to have Jose Reyes and David Wright there. Because to have those guys, I mean, look, Wright got to compete in one, but Reyes never did. I feel like seeing those guys there would have been so special. But then we move over to your town. Kansas City Royals named their manager too, Mike Matheny. I don't know. I didn't really... I mean, for a team like the Royals, I didn't think it was smart to go with an older, more veteran manager. But I think because they have young players who can use the seasoning, I think Mike Matheny could be a good pick. But I'll leave the floor to you because I'm sure you have a lot of things to talk about. You know a lot more, I'm sure, about it than I do. So the floor is yours.
I have my opinion, and I love it. I love having Mike Matheny because you saw in his career at St. Louis, one, he's really close by. Two, 591 and 474 is 6 seasons.
Wow.
6+ seasons in St. Louis. He's the first MLB manager in history to win and go to the postseason in his first 4 seasons. He led them to a pennant in 2013, 3 straight Central Division titles. I love his experience. Yeah, his playoff record's not the best at 21 and 22. I love his experience. He is close to home. And I knew this was going to happen because you saw that he was hired as a special advisor, so you knew what was happening. The special advisor will fit him perfectly with the Royals. You knew he was the successor to Yost, whether he was retiring after this past season or after next season. But I love the hire because he is so passionate about the game. He is so passionate about this team. Because as he said in his press conference, he said, listen, I've become a true fan of this team. I see the potential. We can piece this all together. And he was around the minors the whole season. He knows the potential of those strong minor league pitchers we have. And I'm just very excited to see what he can do. Do I think that will be a contending team this year? No. I think we'll be contending in a couple of years when our guys are up, Bobby Witt and all of our young pitchers. I love Matheny. I liked him when he was with St. Louis. I think he's the perfect fit here in Kansas City.
And he's staying in Missouri, too, even more interesting. That he's just... okay. But...
Watch it. Missouri has a team.
It does have a team, but Kansas City's in Missouri. You can't argue that. But
No, the stadium's in Missouri. They're a Kansas State team.
yeah, but they're called the Kansas City Royals.
Kansas City, Kansas.
But if the stadium's in Missouri... All right, whatever. You know what? All right.
I've gotten this argument way too many times recently.
Yeah, well, you know what? It's your team. You have your view on it. I accept that, and I will accept your belief on it because I can't have an opinion about it. But then we have another thing that you really wanted to talk about was Jace Tingler being named the Padres manager. Sorry, but for me, I don't even know who this guy is. I didn't know who he was. I know that you thought Ron Washington was going to be the manager, but for the Padres, a team who was trying to win, I think hiring an unknown name that no one knows who he is. He's not an experienced manager. I think it's the dumbest thing they can do since hiring Andy Green. So if you're a Padres fan, you're thinking, well, I thought we wanted to win. And what are we doing if we're not trying to win? So, I mean, good for them, but I'll let you take away on that.
Jace Tingler was with the Rangers, so And Preller has connections to the Angels because he used to work in that front office. And this hiring, I disagree with. Young guy, he coached as a manager in the Dominican Republic and came to the United States and was in the Rangers organization. I disagree with the hire because they have a lot of fielding issues, the Padres. Tatis, Urias, and Hosmer. Those three infielders have trouble with errors. And Ron Washington is a fielding guru, a top fielding coach. And by far, I think that he should have been the hire. I know there's issues with his health and some legal stuff, but he was the right guy for this job. And I think the Padres blew it because they should have had Washington on like a 1 to 3 year deal, bring in Tingler as your bench coach. Then when Washington's done, let Tingler slide in.
Right.
But I don't know. It's an interesting hire. I think you got to give him some time because this is a first-time MLB manager. So I don't know what to think about it because it's not the smartest hire. I was talking to my roommate who's a huge Padres fan, and he agrees with me that Washington should have been the hire. So it was a very interesting call by them, but I could see it panning out. It's just like the Mets, though. You got to be patient. You can't just see it 1 or 2 seasons and say, yeah, you're done. No, you got to be patient with it because, again, first-time MLB manager. So I don't know. It could. This is a high risk, high reward situation. So it's very interesting, though.
The other thing is, though, with the Mets and the Padres, that the Padres aren't expecting to win yet, and the Mets are. The Mets want to win now, and the Mets want to win for good. And the Padres are not expecting that. Well, they're not expecting it this year, at least. So
they were expecting it last year because they got Machado and Hosmer. They're very high on it. These Padres fans, just from my roommate, they're expecting to win with their corner infielders and with Tatis and Paddock and all those guys. They're expecting them to win, which I think is a little bit heavy.
Yeah,
contending for the playoffs, fine, but playoffs and contending in the playoffs is a little much.
Yeah, I don't even know if they could contend. They're not beating the Dodgers, and there's no way they're beating a combination of the Mets or Nationals, Braves, Phillies, and Cardinals or Cubs.
They can't beat the Diamondbacks either.
Yeah.
Diamondbacks, I think, are going to be a team to watch next year. They just got to get some more pitching.
Yeah.
Pitching and outfield, and they're good to go.
They have a really great offense, and I like their offense. But, I mean, the Padres, first of all, I don't know what the Padres fans are watching. Look, don't get me wrong. I mean, I thought that the Mets should have won the World Series in 2015, 16, 17, 18, 19, which, to be fair, the Mets should have with their lineup, but they just, I don't know what happened. But
Cespedes has just been an awful contract.
Oh, yeah, that's probably other than Bobby Bonilla, that's the worst contract.
That's true.
He's played, I did the math, this is the last year of his contract, he's played 76 games. In 4 years. That adds 4 years, adds up to about 600 games. The guy hasn't even played 100 in 4 years. Like, what? I mean, look, you couldn't have predicted that. But it blows my mind how terrible that contract was. And I mean, it's awful. But, I mean, I don't even remember what we were just talking about. I know we were talking about the Padres, but I don't even remember who brought up Cespedes. I had to mention how horrible that was. But, yeah, I mean, for the Padres, this is I mean, again, I don't know what a Padres fan's looking at if they think that the Padres are ready to win yet. Look, Chris Paddock's going into his second year, but we all know that the sophomore slump is a real thing, and it very well may affect him. Lucchesi had a sophomore slump this year. He was terrible. If he can get back to his ace form like he was last year, I'd be okay with that.
They've got to sign a top pitcher. They need pitching. Every team in the league kind of needs pitching, and there's not a lot of pitching available.
And if you look at their team, I mean, you've got Hosmer's good, but he could be better. I don't even know where their second baseman is.
Urias.
Oh, right. That's how irrelevant he was this year. He batted under 200. He was terrible. He was one of the best prospects in baseball, and the guy can't hit for his life. Tatis is great, but you mentioned his fielding issues. And Machado is one of the most overrated players in baseball. Then you look at their outfield. Manuel Margot underperformed heavily this year.
Hunter Renfroe was really good.
Hunter Renfroe was good, but his batting average was about 245. That needed to be up a lot. And then they had Franmil Reyes out there and right for most of the year. But Will Myers wasn't Will Myers. I mean, Will Myers, they never should have traded him to the Rays. The Rays are stupid for doing that. The kid, I remember that was the year when Puig came up. It was Puig and Myers. They came up second half of the year and we were like, who are these guys? And they took off. You had Puig, who was one of the most insane players to watch in baseball. And then you had Will Myers, who just came out of nowhere. And this kid on one of the most unpopular teams in baseball is tearing it up. And then they trade him away.
Hey, who traded him first?
That is true. You did.
We drafted him and traded him. But we got Wade Davis, so I'm fine with any James Shields.
You know how many people the Mets have drafted and traded? The Mets drafted Nelson Cruz.
Yeah.
Traded him. The Mets drafted Carlos Gomez. Traded him. The Mets drafted Joe Smith. Traded him. So.
Oh no, I know.
Yeah, it is.
But
I've gone back and looked at. Oh man, I've looked at previous. Don't even get me started on previous fantasy draft on regular drafts. Looking at them, the Mets missed out on Madison Bumgarner, Steven Strasburg. There were so many pitchers that the Mets could have drafted.
Would you like for me to tell you who the Royals missed out on when they chose Bubba Starling? Javi Baez.
Yeah, he's overrated. He's overrated. Don't
Baez is good.
He's good, but he's overrated.
Baez would be incredible to have at second base alongside Alberto Mondesi.
Yeah, but you also know you guys probably would have traded him by now because he's been up in the big leagues for a while. If you guys are going into rebuilding like you are, he would have led you to a World Series probably in 2016 too. But he also would have been traded.
Oh no, I agree with that. Just get your worth out of the trade. But the thing with the Padres is they've got awesome minor league pitching. That's probably going to come up this year. They've got some great minor league pitching, so watch out for that.
They've also got great uniforms. Yeah. They're brown, but they have a lot of uniforms. The Mets have a few. It's boring.
I love my Royals gold writing because they won the World Series.
Yeah, I remember them. They debuted that against the Mets in 2016 on opening day. That was fun.
And then we got our rings.
Yeah,
right in front of you guys.
And you know who else? Do
you know what I need to do? When I come back from Thanksgiving break, I'm bringing my replica World Series ring just to flash in your face.
Well, that's great and all, but you know what the Mets also have to deal with next year? You know where we are opening day? Washington. Woo! We get to watch another team raise their flag on a big rival of ours. I'm so excited to watch the second team that we don't like raise their flag against us on opening day in a matter of 4 years. It's grand. But now we're going to go to the highlights. We're going to start off with Steven Strasburg opting out, but he did say that he wants to stay in Washington. We talked a little bit about Strasburg before, but a lot of people are assuming that he's going to go to the Angels. I mean, at this point, you can't really make assumptions anymore because baseball has proven more over the last year than ever that you can't assume anything in baseball, and it's just stupid too. And Strasburg is a great pitcher. I'm making a prediction that he's going to get at least $30 million a year wherever he goes, whether it be the Nationals or somewhere else. I think the Nationals are going to have to pay him maybe a little less than another team will because he likes the Nationals and won the World Series, but you never know.
Strasburg, I have my prediction, even though I think it's going to be wrong. It's not really a prediction, it's just a thought that I think he could end up going to the Padres. He's from San Diego, he went to San Diego State, and if the Padres can find the money, I think he's going to be a Padre. Because I think that's a good fit for them, and I think he could be really beneficial for that team that has struggled so much, and that will just help out their pitching staff throughout and help their minor league guys ease them coming up, so I think that will help a lot. I think he'll stay in Washington, though, however. I think that he loves it there. He said he wants to stay there, so I think it's going to be Washington. He just wants to leverage them for more money, and it's a smart move to do, especially when you've got Scott Boras as your agent.
Right. And the thing with the Padres is that they have some big contracts on them right now. They've got Eric Hosmer. We forgot about Ian Kinsler because he was hurt. They're still paying Ian Kinsler to be on the DL. And they have Manny Machado. They have some of the biggest contracts in baseball, so it's very hard to find that money. So I think the Padres are a little unrealistic, but you never know. Like I said, the game of baseball is the most unpredictable thing out there. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes back to Washington. The only reason I would be disappointed by that is because, well, I wish the Mets would get him, and if they're not, I really don't want him to be in our division anymore because clearly he is now unhittable. So I don't really want to deal with that. But then we move over to the next player. That will be JD Martinez of the Boston Red Sox. He decides to stay in his contract. An interesting move, especially considering that the Red Sox were so terrible this year, compared to last year. But there were a lot of people who said that, well, now that JD Martinez is staying in contract, Mookie Betts is going to be traded. That leads to a lot of interesting questions. I really like JD Martinez. I like the way he plays. I mean, he basically told the Tigers, "You're going to regret." No, it was the Diamondbacks. You're going to regret not bringing me back, and they did. He won the Red Sox a World Series.
There's one thing about JD Martinez. The reason the Diamondbacks didn't bring him back is because they don't see the need for him in the outfield because he's not.
Yeah, he's the worst.
Outfield.
He's one of the worst fielders.
He's a terrible fielder, but he's a great hitter. That's why he belongs in the American League.
Right.
So that's my stance on him. I do think that when Betts won MVP, I think Martinez should have, because you saw Mookie.
Yeah,
he says, my credit goes to him, JD Martinez. Martinez should win MVP. I think it's a great call for him. He's getting paid over $20 million to hit.
Yeah.
And maybe field once or twice if they decide to play in an interleague games their way. He's getting paid a lot of money. He's been good for them. He's still a great hitter. So I don't think that there was a need for him to leave. And I think he made the right business move for himself and kind of for the Red Sox, as Mookie Betts is kind of veering away from staying.
Right.
They don't lose everyone. So that's my stance on it, at least.
And the thing with Mookie Betts is even weirder for me. I mean, the guy wins an MVP, and he's already being talked about being traded away, which confuses the heck out of me. But I'm more questioning the decision of Martinez that, I mean, look, you never know who's going to sign him, but I think, I don't know. Actually, no, I can't really question it because he didn't have a good year. He probably wouldn't have gotten the money that he has in his contract right now. So it's good for him. I mean, he's got a great bat. The only thing was I was hoping the Mets would maybe get him to be an outfield bat, but the Mets also said that they're going to be focusing a lot on defense this year, so JD Martinez would have been a big because they would not go after a guy with the glove of a middle school right fielder. So for JD Martinez, if you've got a bat like that, you can stay in the big leagues for a long time. But I think for JD Martinez and for the Red Sox, I think for the Red Sox, it's stupid to stick with Martinez and get rid of Betts. I think you should go for the other way around, but obviously wasn't their choice. So JD Martinez staying in Washington, and another guy taken off the market, Aroldis Chapman, staying with the Yankees, which made it that it was now that who's the lefty? Will Smith no, that's not his name. Who's the lefty? The big lefty, it's Will, isn't it?
Britton?
No, on the free agent market. He was on the Giants.
Will Smith.
Yeah, it is Will Smith. All right, I got confused because there's another Will Smith on the Dodgers. So, all right, I was gonna say I knew it was Will Smith. That darn Will Smith on the Dodgers is confusing me too. So, yeah, Will Smith is now the number one lefty on the market, which will benefit him a lot. He's gonna get a great contract. And he's not even one of the best lefties in baseball, let alone relievers. So that is even more interesting. I really am surprised that Chapman decided to stay because he probably could have gotten a lot more money. But I think after that smirk on the mound, I think we all wanted to see him back in the Yankees uniform to get pelted again in the postseason. So I'm okay with that. I'm okay with watching him blow the Yankees postseason for a long time. He doesn't have a lot of years left, but the Cuban Missile is staying in New York.
Doesn't shock me. He shouldn't have even thought about leaving, because think about this. He's getting rocked. People are figuring him out, and he's not as good a pitcher as he was in Cincinnati. So it's the best thing for him, because nobody's going to pay him the $18 million that he's getting. So
yeah,
it's a no-brainer for him to stay there, because he wouldn't get anything close to it.
And if you're a Yankee fan, this is a great move for you, obviously, because, I mean, you're keeping one of your top arms. Yeah, he's blown you multiple games. I mean, he's kind of like a little bit of a better Edwin Diaz. except Edwin Diaz is, you can't, I mean, Edwin Diaz is the worst pitcher in baseball this year, so you can't really compare him to Edwin Diaz, but in terms of potential and not living up to it, I mean, there's some clear comparisons there. And the last one here is something you wanted to talk about. Anthony Rendon, the third baseman was the third baseman on the Nationals. He will officially be a free agent very soon. I believe he's actually a free agent now. So you've got a guy like that staying in Washington is a big question for him. A lot of people say that he is going to. A lot of people say that he is not going to. But to me, in my eyes, I think there's mutual interest, but he denied a huge contract. I did the math, and it was something like $28 million that he was rejecting from the Nationals, and I couldn't believe that. I was like, he just rejected like a $28 million contract. I mean, look, the guy could probably get more, but what did Trout make, like $37 a year? I mean, you're not going to get much more than $28 million. I think the thing for him might have been a little bit more that he just didn't know if he wanted to stay with the Nationals, but once they won the World Series, I mean, there's going to be an issue with them that, the ownership may say, hey, we like you, but we gave you an offer already and you denied it. So it's hard for them to maybe make that case to bring him back on a bigger contract than what they had already offered.
Here's the thing with the Nationals now. They might be a little bit screwed.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know if they can afford both of them. If they can't afford both of them, we might have a huge issue. Because these are two cornerstones of their team. And you lose one of them, then they're going to take a huge step back. I think they can figure out the money. They declined Ryan Zimmerman's option, so they have the money to maybe sign them both, but not as big of deals. So I think that you're right with Rendon declining because he didn't know if he wanted to stay there. But I think since winning the World Series, I think he'll want to stay there and be there. And I think that's another factor with Strasburg is that he wants to be there after winning the World Series and how he's been such a huge part of it. He doesn't want to let that go.
You also have to think that they got rid of Harper's contract, so they have a little bit more room now, not paying such a hefty person. With Zimmerman's contract not being there, that's also a lot of money dropped. I think they're setting themselves up to say, if we go out and we sign these two guys right now for however long we sign them, it's going to be really, really hard to make any other signings for a few years. The Nationals are going to be really a one-note over the next couple of years and are going to have to be a really homegrown team because there's no way they're going to be able to afford the guys that are going to be coming onto the market if they sign both of these players. So the Nationals have a very interesting offseason ahead of them. I mean, they could keep one, they can keep both. They may end up losing both. And if the Nationals lose both of those players, then they're going to be automatic contenders to be fourth in the NL East, which is even more interesting because they just won the World Series. So it's for the Nationals, it's not a good situation to have, especially because you didn't have any of November to plan for. Yes, I'm sure they did a little bit, but they didn't really have that much time. So we will get into the pinnacle of this day that you are here for, that we wanted to talk about. These are our award predictions. Now, I'm sure that there are a little bit of opinions thrown in here, but I made sure that mine were strictly prediction-based, but I will give my opinion afterwards. But I'm sure we also have my friend Ben from New York. We have Nick Nath, who is also a member who has been a guest on the podcast. We have his predictions, and we have Marco Peralta, who also gave his predictions as well.
The Alta Peralta.
Yeah, so you three are all guests on the podcast, which is really funny because none of you knew that. So we have input from a lot of people here, but we're going to kick it right off with the AL MVP. I don't know why I'm clapping, but I'm excited. AL MVP, Mike Trout. There's no question about it. He's going to win. He should win. The guy was the best player in the AL this year. Yeah, he was hurt the last month of the year, but Bregman wasn't that good all year long. Mike Trout is the best player in baseball history. Fight me about it. I will go to town on you because Mike Trout's the best player I've ever seen play the game of baseball, and he will be the best player in the history of baseball until someone else comes along when he retires. So who is your AL MVP prediction?
There's no doubt it's Mike Trout. Let me just throw you some stats. AL leader in OPS of 1.083. Major League leader in OBP, 4.38. His OPS plus 185. His WAR was less than Bregman, but it's still 8.3. 137 hits, 45 home runs, 110 runs, 104 RBIs, 291 batting average, and 645 slugging percentage. These numbers are ridiculous because he was done September 7th.
Yeah.
He could have led the league in home runs if he didn't get hurt. But I'm happy because my guy Jorge Soler won the AL crown for home runs, so I'll take it.
So did Pete Alonso, and he probably would have beaten Pete, too. So
yeah.
I'm not competing.
Mike Trout was the best player in baseball this year, and I don't think there's really an argument against him for MVP. Yes, Bregman had an incredible year. He had a great year, but he does not live up to Mike Trout and how amazing he was this year. He just took it up another level this year, Mike Trout did.
Right. And then we're going to look at the other inputs. Ben, my friend from New York, he said Mike Trout as well. Nick said that the AL MVP was going to be Mike Trout. So, an agreement there. But Marco took a different route. Marco said that it's going to be Alex Bregman. So, interesting there. I don't know. I mean,
did he give a rationale why? I'm just curious.
No, they didn't give any rationale. They just said it. So, maybe I figured now that I know that you all know each other, we need to have one podcast where the four of us are just here talking. And I don't know if that's possible. Obviously, these rooms are a little bit small, but we will have to wait and see. Maybe we can get some of these guys on. But you guys know each other. I mean, we're currently trying to contact Marco, but he's not answering us. We are trying to figure out why he said Alex Bregman. That would be a good thing to note. But we may just have to wait, for another podcast. So, yeah, Marco went for AL MVP Alex Bregman. So that is a very, very interesting thing. I mean, we're currently getting his input right now. So we'll be right back with that. So his belief was that Alex Bregman carried the Astros. You were a little
baffled,
baffled by that.
He said, besides the pitching, he carried the Astros. I'm like, but yet the best leadoff hitter in Springer, Altuve, Correa, Yuli Gurriel, who had a good year, Brantley, Reddick. This team was loaded. I'm not saying he had a bad year because he had a great year, just not as close to Trout.
Right, and that to me unarguable. So NL MVP, I just changed it right now because you said something to me that makes a lot of sense. That Cody Bellinger had a .233 batting average second half, and
yes, he did.
I've seen firsthand that second halves determine these awards, and I have to say it's going to be Anthony Rendon winning the MVP. I like Bellinger, and I loved his first half, but I believe Anthony Rendon deserves it. Rendon deserves it absolutely, but in terms of prediction-wise, I think he'll get it because he had a Beckon center half. Yeah, that makes sense. So what's your pick, NL MVP?
Mine's Yelich, and I'll tell you why. Major League best 1.1 OPS, which is 100 points higher than his MVP campaign last year. His OPS plus 179, 15 points higher. 44 homers, 29 doubles, 7.1 WAR, 161 hits, 329 batting average, 429 on-base percentage, 671 slugging percentage, 100 runs, 97 RBIs, and 30 stolen bases. The guy's season ended September 10th. The thing with Yelich is that he just took up another step after a fantastic campaign last year. I think that he is the type of player that definitely deserves this award because you see the numbers right now. Imagine what he would do in those last 18 games.
Right.
So I think it's Yelich. Rendon is a fantastic player, and I love Anthony Rendon. I don't think he had as great of a full year.
Right.
And for Bellinger, that second half kills him. 233 really took a huge decline in the second half, so that's why I don't pick Bellinger either.
So that's a hot take. That is a very hot take. Imagine Yelich winning back-to-back. That's crazy to think of. So Ben said that Cody Bellinger is going to win the NL MVP. We've spoken about that before. It was primarily because he just felt like they weren't going to pick Rendon because of Bellinger's first half. And then we move over to Nick, who believes that the NL MVP is going to be Bellinger as well. So we've got two Bellingers, and then Marco said the NL MVP will be Rendon. So we've got 3-2 right now for Rendon over Bellinger. Actually, no, we have 2-1. So you're the odd man out. And you're most likely wrong, but it's okay.
I don't know, though.
This is probably going to be the best MVP race ever.
I know that Bellinger won a Gold Glove, but still, Yelich is a great defender, one.
Yeah.
And two, look at the stats, man.
This is true.
I love all three of these players. They're three of my favorite players in the league. So I would not mind with any of these guys winning. I just think it's going to be Yelich, personally.
Yeah, I think this is, like I was saying when we were both talking, I think this is going to be the best MVP race we have ever had. AL Rookie of the Year, Yordan Alvarez. Well, there's nothing to talk about here. I mean, do you have any difference there for AL Rookie of the Year?
No, there's no argument against it.
Yeah, there's
No
really
argument.
there's none. You can't argue. Ben says Yordan Alvarez. Nick said Yordan Alvarez, and Marco said Yordan Alvarez.
Let me add something about Yordan Alvarez. He had 27 home runs in 369 plate appearances. The only rookie in the modern era with a higher OPS plus than Alvarez, who had a 173, was shoeless Joe Jackson.
Wow.
With 193 with the 1911 Cleveland Naps.
That's a fun name.
He's making history, and he was by far the best out of all these candidates. Lowe had a good year, but out most of the second half.
Right.
So it's going to be Yordan Alvarez because of that, because of this historical memento. I'm going to say it again because it's incredible. The only rookie in the modern era with a higher OPS plus than Alvarez, who had 173, was shoeless Joe Jackson with 193 with the 1911 Cleveland Naps. That is incredible. Plus, I wanted to say Naps again because that's a great team name.
That is a great team name. You won't see anything that tiresome. I bet they wore out their opponents really, really quickly. So, NL Rookie of the Year, for me, there's no question it's Pete Alonso. This has been debated, but, I mean, you said that if Tatis plays all year, he puts up a really good fight, but I still think even at that, I don't think anyone can deny that 53 home runs, breaking the rookie home run record. Look, he didn't have the batting average, and I think if he had the batting average there and he managed to hit 280 with 53 home runs, I think Pete Alonso probably would make it for MVP, Rookie of the Year, and then you'd have DeGrom being Cy Young, meaning that the Mets would sweep the three main categories and didn't even make it to the wild card game. That would have been atrocious, but we are still going to win 2 out of the 3, which just upsets me even more. You know who's the other team that's going to do that in baseball? The Astros. And they're not even going to get it. So, I don't know, whatever. The Mets are a basket case. It's fine. But yeah, NL Rookie of the Year, Pete Alonso. You have anything else to say about that?
I agree. I think it's going to be Pete Alonso. Mike Soroka had a great year, but he only had 174 innings, which isn't bad. I think he's a good pitcher. He was on the fringe of Cy Young discussions. I actually had him as one of the top competitors as a finalist because he had a great year.
Mm-hmm.
But Alonso, 53 home runs, rookie record. I think Tatis puts up a heck of a fight if he plays the whole year.
Right.
It's more debatable if he plays the whole year, but Pete Alonso definitely wins it. There's no doubt against it.
Yeah, and everyone else agrees as well, so no need to talk more about that. But now we get into the AL Cy Young. This is the interesting one. For me, I think that this is wrong that he will be, but I believe Justin Verlander will be the Cy Young. I don't know why he will be, because Garrett Cole was 10 times better, and Garrett Cole should be, but we have to keep in mind that they voted before postseason started, and at the time, they had Verlander leading the polls. So I have Justin Verlander. Ben for the AL Cy Young is Garrett Cole. Nick for the AL Cy Young is Garrett Cole, and Marco has Garrett Cole, and so do you, don't you?
I am very high on Garrett Cole because this guy was incredible this year. Let me read off some numbers for you. 6.8 WAR, a 20-5 record. I know record doesn't go far in the Cy Young Award, as you will see with DeGrom.
You're welcome.
2.5 ERA, 326 strikeouts, over 212 in a third innings pitched. That's 13.8 strikeouts per 9 innings pitched. That number is ridiculous. An amazing season that just continues with this. 0.895 whip, an ERA plus of 185. He did not lose in his last 27 starts.
That's DeGrom type numbers right there.
post All-Star game, an All-Star break, 11-0 with a 1.79 ERA. This guy is the AL Cy Young, and he is the best pitcher in the league.
I agree. I
will say this.
Completely agree.
Garrett Cole and Justin Verlander are the best duo by far in MLB.
Maybe even in history, too.
Oh, in history, by far. Best in history. These are two guys that were electric and incredible. But by far, Garrett Cole should win this award because he had a better season, and the fact that he did not lose in his last 27 starts and did not lose after the All-Star break. That is ridiculous.
And I absolutely agree with you on that. I completely, you are 100% right. I just feel like they are going to pick Verlander for some weird reason. So that will bring us over to the National League Cy Young. Jacob deGrom, New York Mets starting pitcher ace, and my favorite pitcher in baseball. I love this guy, and man, I love watching Jacob deGrom pitch every single time he does. As a Mets fan, this dude is the king. He's about to win his second straight Cy Young Award, for the record. Take that, Yankee fans, and anyone else out there. So we're about to win second straight Cy Young with the guy who has collectively less than 20 wins in 2 years. That just baffles me. But Ben has Jacob deGrom. Nick, I may have to find Nick and kind of tie him to a tree because he said that Max Scherzer is going to win the Cy Young. So I'm gonna have to. I have to really yell at him for that. I already did, but not enough. And then Marco also has deGrom. So there's really no question about this one. It's going to be Jacob deGrom. He swept the last Cy Young poll, as did Pete Alonso. I just am baffled at the fact that the Mets have a Rookie of the Year and Cy Young who are going to sweep it, and they didn't even make the playoffs. Like I said, basket
Let me
case.
just add on to deGrom's case. Even though he had an 11-8 record doesn't do much. And he won the Cy Young last year with 10 wins, so that doesn't matter. 2.43 ERA. 2.43 ERA. Better than Garrett Cole. ERA plus of 167. NL best 255 strikeouts. 204 innings pitched. In his last 23 starts, a 1.89 ERA.
That's worse than his ERA from last year, too.
That is ridiculous. A 7.9 WAR and then a WHIP of .971. He has proved that he's one of the best pitchers in the league, and I by far think deGrom deserves this award. I don't think anyone can hold a candle to him.
Yeah. And the thing, as a Mets fan, watching him, after his first 6 starts, where his ERA was up around 5, I said, there's no way he wins Cy Young again. I didn't know you at the time, but you've seen my MLB story that I post. I said when he had his horrible starts, I said, well, I guess we can count deGrom out for Cy Young this year. And here he is. He turned it around, had one of the best second halves I've ever seen. And
Agreed.
I can't believe that I'm able to watch this kind of pitcher all the time. I mean, it's amazing. He's a great player. But that brings us to the last category, which is Manager of the Year. This is the one that's most up for debate, and it's also one that people care about the least, but you never know. We've got AL Manager of the Year. I'm going for Kevin Cash. I just feel like Kevin Cash is the guy who can be counted on to win games for his team. He took a Rays team of absolute unknowns. Look, you know a little bit more about baseball than I do, but try and name 10 players on the Rays. I know you were yawning.
Jeez, I did not sleep well last night. Okay, Snell, Glasnow. Oh, shit. Whoa. Ji-Man Choi.
Oh, God.
Kiermaier.
Yeah.
Tommy Pham.
Uh-huh.
Sergio Romo.
Yeah. Exactly.
Hold on. Zip it.
But
Willie Adames.
Yes. Zip it. That's the point.
Hold on. We're still thinking.
You're still proving my point, though.
No, I'm not looking up. No.
No, I'm not doing it.
I hate this. Okay, hold on.
I know one that you haven't said.
It's not the catcher I'm thinking. It's not that.
I don't even know. I'm blanking on that, too.
Yeah, funny. What player works with my last name? Shoot!
Well, what about the two people with the same last name. Oh, wait, no. One doesn't have the same last name. No, I know the last two. I know three more.
I'm trying to think. Who was our closer? Shit.
I apologize for the language, everybody.
We'll edit it out.
No,
Oh, God. Okay, this is actually difficult.
Would you like me to just name them for you?
No.
Well, you're running out of time.
Name
You have
one.
to leave.
Name one.
Avisail Garcia.
Garcia, he had home run wild card game. I knew that.
Yeah, you know who else hit a home run wild card game twice?
Oh! Diaz. A Lady Miss Diaz.
No, that's on the Astros. It's Yandy.
Yandy Diaz.
I was thinking of Diego Castillo is the other one too.
Yandy Diaz. I knew nine.
That's the point. You can't even name 9 people. You can't even name 10 people on the Rays.
I forgot about Avisail. Okay?
And they made it to the ALDS and almost beat the Astros. Kevin Cash is your manager of the year. I don't care. All right. Ben's AL manager of the year is Aaron Boone. Of course, he's a Yankees fan. He had really good reasoning for it. He said with all the injuries, I can understand that. Nick Nath, his AL manager of the year is Kevin Cash. Wow, you didn't redeem yourself for DeGrom still. I really am disappointed you. And Marco for manager of the year is Rocco Baldelli of the Minnesota Twins. So not Marco. Why, Ryan? You can take it away now.
Okay, here we go. I will say this about Baldelli. I don't think he's going to win it, but he flipped 23 games for a 23-game improvement for the Twins.
Yeah.
Come into the playoff, first AL Central title since 2010. Great job by him as a rookie manager, but I don't think he wins it. I think it should be Kevin Cash. I don't think it's going to be, though.
Right, because the MLB loves the Yankees.
Kevin Cash led a team with how you just said, only 9 guys I could name, had the injury bug, and then go ahead and add the lowest payroll in baseball this year.
Right.
This is a team that proved everyone wrong, and I think Kevin Cash is a top manager in the league, 1, and 2, I think he deserves the award, but I don't think it's going to be him. I think it's going to be Aaron Boone. All the injuries that Yankees team went through, and yet they still had the number 2 seed and won their division.
Right.
Is incredible. Their ability to just throw in any guy, Gio Urshela, DJ LeMahieu. This team really proved all of us wrong.
Yeah.
When we saw all the injuries. At one point, they had, I think it was 26 guys on the IL this year.
I believe, yeah.
That is an insane amount of number, an insane amount of players on the IL, and yet they come back and win it. It's their first AL East title since 2012. Yeah, fine. They have a very high payroll, but a lot of it was squandered with Stanton being out most of the year, Tanaka getting hurt, Severino getting hurt. All these guys got hurt, and yet they still won the AL East. So my pick is Aaron Boone.
Yeah, you know who's the GM of the Rays? Chaim Bloom. Yeah, the Mets were about to make him our GM last year. He was the assistant GM. Actually, he's not the GM of the Rays anymore. I apologize. The GM of the Red Sox. But he was the assistant GM of the Rays all year long. So I'm just disappointed that we didn't take the guy as our general manager. But that brings us to the last thing here, National League Manager of the Year. I'm going a little bit out on a limb here, and I'm going for Brian Snitker, just because I've seen him play. I've seen him manage all year long. I've seen the way he manages games. He manages games really well. His players love him. He's probably one of the most liked players in baseball overall as a manager. I said he's one of the most liked players in baseball. Whatever. He's one of the most liked managers in baseball. And I think that's the main reason why I have him picked for Ben. Ben's got Dave Roberts winning NL Manager of the Year, which is a very hot take. I'm surprised about that. He wasn't even in the finals. He's not even in the finalists. Then you go over to Nick, who picked for his NL Manager of the Year. He picked Brian Snitker as well. And then for Marco, he picked Mike Schilt, who I know you have a little bit to speak about for him, and Craig Counsell. So I'll let you take the floor. Last guy we're going to talk about here today.
I think it's Mike Schilt. I agree with Marco. .635 winning percentage in the second half. He led the Cardinals to their first Central title since 2015. And this was his first full season as manager.
Mm-hmm.
They were not projected to win this division. And they had to go against the Braves. Not the Braves. Jesus. They had to go against the Cubs and the Brewers. 2 teams that are good teams, and yet they still win the division. I think Mike Shildt deserves this award because of a lot of guys, the youth, Tommy Edman, Harrison Bader. Those are guys that you just see as young guys that he helped bring in and gel his team together and win and get that division title. So I think it is Mike Shildt.
And for the record, I had for the NL Central champions last year, I had the Cardinals predicted for this year to win. So I do take pride in that. But, I mean, I'm looking I'm looking at my predictions for this year for award winners. For AL MVP, I had Mike Trout, so I called that. I had Paul Goldschmidt for NL. AL Cy Young, I had Chris Sale, who had never won one before. That blew up in my face. I had Jacob deGrom for NL, and he did come through with that. Rookie of the year, I had Vlad Jr., which really surprised me that he wasn't. I had Pete winning that as well, which came in my favor. AL home run leader, I had Joey Gallo with 48. That was a good number. That was a good pick. And then for NL home run leader, I had Rhys Hoskins, who is also with 41. But that didn't work out either. So that was
Jorge Soler power.
You're a little overamped about that.
I love Jorge Soler.
I mean, there's no reason not to. He's the only thing you guys had to watch all year this year.
Whit.
So yeah, Whit.
Alberto. Dozier.
Yeah, Alberto. All right, whatever. You guys can crack 500. Gosh, you're out here talking about all these people. Whit. Adalberto. I'm like, okay, please. Never mind.
We just need some pitching. That's all we need.
You do. You need pitching.
Yes, so. Okay.
Yeah, but that'll do it for this podcast. This is probably one of the most laid-back, nonchalant podcasts I've ever done in my life. But an hour and 6 minutes in, Ryan's spinning his chair around. He's a bundle of energy already. But what a great podcast today. A lot of great predictions. I'm looking forward to seeing how these turn out, though. I really am. I just can't wait to wave the flag around saying, we have 2 of the main awards in baseball, and we didn't even make the playoffs. But it's fine. I'll hold that near and dear to my heart when we do it again next year. But thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you, Ryan, for being on. I really think that next week or whenever, because I do want to discuss free agent signing predictions, I think if I do that, I want to have you, Nick, and Marco on all at the same time. And if you do that, I think that'll be a really, really fun time because it'll be great. Have the 4 of us in a room chatting about baseball.
Oh, then we're going to have to go up to the Wampus cave on floor 6.
What is that? Is that the big room? No, I don't even know where that is.
The Wampus Cave is a very exclusive place on floor 6. Edit Bay has a wood door.
Yeah, I was in there today.
The Wampus Cave is amazing.
Okay, we may have to reserve that. The Wampus Cave. Okay, well, thank you, everybody, for listening. I really appreciate it. Again, baseball's over now, but baseball's never over, baby. We know that. It's baseball, baby. We're going to move on, and we'll see you all next week.
Tell me pretty lies, look me in the face. Tell me that you love me, even if it's fake.